What is up, gig workers? Let me ask you a question. What do you do when you get into an accident as a rideshare driver, as a delivery driver, as a grocery shopper? What do you do? In this video, we are actually going to have a conversation with the rideshare lawyers about what exactly to do in this very situation. I'm doing a little bit of an intro here because the quality of this video is not good. I apologize for that, but the content and I think the answers and the advice that they give is so sound that we have to make sure that we get that out there. So guys, please check out this video, understand what you need to do, what you should be doing if you get into an accident as a rideshare delivery driver or a grocery shopper. Check it out. What's up here, rideshare and delivery drivers? Brandon Sellers here from Gridwise, here with a awesome special guest to talk to us about things regarding if you're a delivery driver or a rideshare driver, what do you do if you get in an accident and other legal matters around that area? That's really interesting to, I know, to you drivers. So want to introduce the guys over at Legal Rideshare. How you guys doing?
Hey, Brandon. We're doing well. How are you?
I am doing great. Give me a little introduction, a little bio of yourself there, Bryant.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Bryant Greening. I'm an attorney and co-founder at Legal Rideshare. We are the only law firm in the United States that's entirely dedicated to Uber, Lyft, gig worker, accident, and injury claims. So if you're hurt on the job, we're the lawyers that you want to call.
Awesome. So rideshare and delivery drivers kind of equally always have a lot of questions. We get a lot of questions in, what do I do in certain situations? And the biggest thing that we hear is, hey, when I'm in an accident, what do I do? I would love to hear from your standpoint, from a rideshare, if you're a rideshare driver, hey, what should drivers be doing right after they get in an accident? Let's say this is a case where they actually have a passenger in the car, since that's kind of worst case scenario. What do drivers do here?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that we hear from drivers all the time. An accident by itself is stressful enough, but when you're on the job and you might have a customer with you, the intensity just, heightens to the nth degree. So what we tell drivers to do is to try to remain calm to the best of your ability, take a deep breath and assess the situation. So there's a couple things that you want to think about. Is anybody injured? Am I in a dangerous spot on the road? Is there some evidence that I can gather to help prove this case later, should it be necessary? So when we talk about how to handle an accident, you've got to keep all those different elements in mind. The first thing you want to do is stop the vehicle, check to make sure that everyone's okay. If there's an injury, that's going to dictate your next moves. Let's assume that somebody is in your car, whether it's you or a passenger, and they're saying, I think I need medical attention. The first thing you need to do is obviously call 911, because you want to make sure that either you're going to be okay or that somebody else in your vehicle is going to have the medical care that they need, so that there's not any more trauma than is necessary. The next step is call the police. Many drivers are really afraid at points to bring the police to the scene. And the reason for that can be multiple. They might fear that they'll be deactivated. They might fear that it's going to take too long. They want to get back on the road. The reasons are endless. That police call is really the most important step you can take, because it's documentation of the accident itself. That's where the evidence comes in that can help protect you should an insurance claim need to be filed, should a lawsuit be filed down the road. So that's step number one.
Gotcha. So one, make sure everyone is okay. Then call the police ASAP.
Exactly. So you've got the police on the phone and you let them know that you're there. Sometimes, depending on your jurisdiction, they'll actually come to the scene. Other times they'll ask, is everybody okay? Are the cars drivable? And if your answers are yes, they'll tell you to come to the station with the other driver to make the report there. regardless of if the police come to the scene or if they ask you to come down to the station, there are certain pieces of evidence that you want to collect directly at the scene. The first would be any witness's contact information. As a rideshare driver, you're in this strange situation where you've got somebody in your car, but you don't know them, and you really don't have access to their personal information unless, you know, you subpoena that information from Uber or Lyft down the road.
Right.
If you turn around and you ask the person, you know, would you mind giving me your name and phone number? That's going to save you a lot of headaches down the road if you can't locate them for your insurance claim, or if your lawyer, if you've got an accident claim, is looking for witnesses. You're going to have that information. The next piece of evidence that you want to gather are photos. So if you can get out of your vehicle, take pictures of the property damage, both your car and the others, look at the scene, you know, look at what the lighting is like, look at what the road conditions are like. All of this evidence will work in your benefit towards proving your version of the facts. If you don't gather evidence, it's going to be your word versus the other person's word. And he said situation doesn't always work out in your favor.
Gotcha. That is the advice about getting your passengers' information seems like such an overlooked thing, but such an important thing because they're like a witness, right? So they can kind of help you prove your side of the story.
Well, you said they are a witness. Let me tell you, they are the witness, because they don't have a dog in this race. They don't know you. They don't know the other driver. They are truly an independent person who was at this scene. And if they can help confirm your version of the facts, it's going to go a long way towards convincing the insurance companies and the lawyers down the road that you were the aggrieved party and that you deserve compensation for your medical bills, your lost wages, your pain and suffering, all of the above.
Gotcha. One thing that we have been talking to drivers about that's important for them, not so much from a accident standpoint, but more so actually from protecting themselves from false accusation standpoint, is having a dash cam. How important is a dash cam for these types of situations?
There are two things that every rideshare driver needs. One is a rideshare endorsement on their insurance policy, and the second is a dash cam. We've been telling drivers since the beginning that a dash cam really is like extra insurance. It's proof of what happens inside and outside your car. So a lot of times people talk about dash cams like you referenced in terms of accusations or assaults or things that happen in the car. We've had cases where they've completely turned on what the dash cam shows out the front and back windows. So again, it's a source that has no dog in the race. The video doesn't lie. So if you say this person was speeding and they say I was going the speed limit, who do we believe? If we have footage of that event, well, we know exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's there you go, folks. I've been telling people for months, get a dash cam. Bryant here from Legal Rideshare kind of co-signs that. Very important for drivers. Now, if we kind of turn this around, we talked about from the rideshare standpoint, how does this advice change when we're talking about delivery drivers?
So delivery drivers have a lot of the same tools available to them that rideshare drivers do. So the only thing that changes would be the passenger in your vehicle. You still want to follow these steps to call the police, assess whether there's any injuries, take photographs. You have all of these same tools. You got to use them because the claim is just as strong regardless of if you're, with passenger in the car or with a hamburger in the car. You need to protect your interests. This is your livelihood. This is your personal life. This is your professional life. You've got to take these things seriously and do everything that you can to ensure that you end up in the best position possible.
Right. So even if you are a delivery driver, you still need to kind of go through the correct steps, make sure that you are obviously checking on the other driver, calling the police, etc., kind of doing the right thing there.
Right. And one additional point is when you're on app, if you get in an accident, you should report it to the app. Again, a lot of drivers are hesitant to do that because they understand that with property damage comes possible temporary suspension, or with an at-fault accident, they could be at risk of even deactivation.
Right.
You need to protect yourself, and by putting the rideshare company on notice of some event, be it an accident,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to help ensure that their insurance policy protects you. So you don't want to be sued and not have adequate coverage. You don't want to be injured and not be able to go after the policies that are supposed to protect you. Without putting them on notice, you're putting yourself at risk.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a ton of sense. One of the things, the benefits, obviously, of driving with a Uber, a Lyft, a DoorDash, etc., is they do offer some form of insurance. So you do want to make sure that you are kind of able to take advantage of that as much as possible. Now, one fringe case that we hear about sometimes are that there are delivery drivers that work on bikes. They do bike delivery. How now obviously things are different on bike versus in a car. How does that change how you should react if let's say you get hit by a car?
Well, if you get hit by a car on a bike, the chances of injury are certainly higher.
Right.
So the point about assessing yourself for injury, for physical pain, is really important. You need to be honest with yourself. We tell drivers all the time, don't be a hero. If you're hurt, stop, call the police, call an ambulance. There are mechanisms in place to get those bills paid for. You need to make sure that your health is priority number one. Uh, Accidents that involve bikes versus cars are really not all that different than accidents involving two cars. There's going to be insurance in play. The delivery apps do offer insurance for bike riders. It depends on the period in which they're in, but there is protection there. And if you get hit by a car, chances are that car is at fault. The people are driving down the streets, they're not watching for bicyclists in bike lanes, or they don't necessarily suspect that a bicyclist is going to make a legal turn on the street. So that person's auto insurance is certainly something that we can go after to recover your damages, which again would be the medical bills, the lost wages, things like that.
Gotcha. That makes a ton of sense. And yeah, I mean, it's not a ton of delivery folks are on bike, but we do see that. And then those accidents do happen. You're putting yourself in a decent amount more danger on a bike, really, in one of these big cities like Chicago, New York, than if you were, just driving. So definitely good to understand, hey, what do I do if I do end up in an accident on a bike?
Right. I mean, if you get injured on a bike, you definitely want to give us a call so that we can ensure that you take the steps that you need to protect your interests. In every one of these rideshare or delivery app cases, there are a lot of hoops that the insurance companies make the injured party jump through. And if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't see it every day, it's very possible to find yourself in a situation where you haven't taken the necessary steps to ensure full compensation.
Right. That is awesome. Awesome advice from Bryant over at Legal Rideshare. Could you just give us kind of just a rundown of Legal Rideshare and what you guys do and how you guys are helping drivers here, Bryant?
Yeah, so we try to help out drivers any way that we can. We consider ourselves to be advocates of gig workers nationwide. Most of our work relates to accident and injury law. So that's car accidents, bike accidents, scooter accidents, you name it. If you're a gig worker, we can help you if you're injured on the job. We have also really focused on advocating for drivers' rights beyond injury. So for instance, we overturned an advertising ban in Chicago that was limiting the amount of money that drivers could make by putting advertisements in and on their cars. We got the city to essentially admit that that was an unconstitutional law. So we are looking for cases in which we can make a difference in rideshare drivers and delivery drivers' lives, and we are excited to take on those opportunities. Certainly, if you find yourself in an accident, we would be the ones that you would want to call so that we can make sure that you get compensated and you get back on the road as quickly as possible.
Love it. At Gridwise, we are obviously very, very focused on helping drivers both on and off the road, maximize everything they can be. Right. So love to hear you guys' work in terms of making sure that drivers have rights to monetize their vehicles in any way they see fit there, and all the other things that you guys are doing. So we appreciate that in the driver community here. Awesome conversation here with Legal Rideshare about how exactly rideshare and delivery drivers should be responding to a potential accident. Any kind of last advice here, Bryant, or did we cover everything?
I think we did a pretty good job. I would just direct any person who's involved in an accident to visit our website at legalrideshare.com. That's the best way to find all of our contact information and many of the resources that we publish on a daily or weekly basis.
Yeah, and I think you guys are all over Facebook and Twitter as well, aren't you?
We are. I'd say we're a pretty good follow, so you might want to click like if you're social media savvy as well.
They've got some good content, so definitely go ahead and click follow the guys at Legal Rideshare, and you know where to go for your rideshare legal advice.